Thank you, everybody, for jumping on the call. Janet, are you ready for us to go ahead and launch it?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. So, guys, I want to thank everybody for jumping on the call. We have some extremely important information that we're going to be putting out to all of you today in reference to the programs that the USDA has to offer for hurricane recovery, how to navigate, what the programs are. We have a vast array of agencies under the USDA that are going to come in and talk to you about it. And what we want to do is we want to be responsive to you all. And for this to work, guys, we're going to ask that you put the questions into the Q&A. And at the end of each presenters, we will go ahead and answer as many as we can. We have to be very conscientious about the time, keeping within the time frame. And we will answer any questions that we don't answer immediately. We will answer at a later time. So they will get answered for you all. We'll go ahead and kick off the program because we have a full agenda. And we're going to start off with the Farm Service Agency programs. Valuable programs for risk management and different programs that possibly affect you directly. And they're going to talk to you a little bit about the different programs that are out there. So we're going to start off with NAP and TAP with Chris Vasquez. So Chris, if you, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Rick, and welcome everyone. So I'm Chris Vasquez. I oversee a couple different programs, but two of which are NAP and TAP. So NAP is the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program. It is meant to be a program to come in where crop insurance is not available. And so one of the requirements to participate in NAP is that you have to have coverage in advance of the coverage period. That means actually signing a 471, or if you have been a past participant in maybe some of these past programs under the CFAPs, you may have signed a CCC 860, and that certification back in 2022 became an application for coverage. So all hope may not be lost on if you didn't actually come in and physically sign up for NAP. You may actually have NAP coverage and not be aware of it, in which case NAP would pay for losses on production or yield of a crop or value loss situation. So that's like a nursery, turf grass sod, things of that nature. But the NAP is, like I said, it's a program you have to have that coverage in advance of the coverage period, and that 860 may serve as an application for coverage. So you could have coverage and you may not know. So I would encourage you all, if you've participated in some of these past programs, CFAPs, ERP, in the past for some of these, you may have filled out an 860, especially for the beginning farmers. You probably filled one out and you possibly have NAP coverage. So what I encourage you to do is go into your county office where you filed maybe those prior applications and see if that certification is on file. And then the counties could assist you with what the next steps would be on the NAP side. As far as TAP goes, TAP is not a program that requires you to have any advanced sign up. That's for reestablishment of lost trees, bushes, or vines due to a natural disaster. And for TAP, what I make sure that if you have existence of the trees are ready, that you're not taking any action, get in there and let the counties know, because we do have something called environmental assessment that needs to be done in some cases. So we don't want you to disturb anything and then risk being ineligible because of that. One of the things you can bring into the office is if the trees are no longer, you don't have the trees, bushes, or vines, or the hurricane just blew them out completely, is bring in your documentation that maybe supports that you had the trees at one point in time, and there are ways to verify losses of those trees without having physical evidence. Thinking you may have like on the nursery side, you could have had a crop insurance policy, or there may be requirements within your respective states for keeping track of inventories, crop insurance papers, maybe prior pictures. So there is other information available. Past production records can help us to establish that the trees were there before the event. Now I know kind of short on time, and that was a lot of information to push out there real quick. So I'll turn it back over to Rick.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate the overview of it, what's needed and whatnot, because it's so important that farmers and ranchers take care of these issues that have come up, their vulnerabilities, and the programs that you guys offer for them is invaluable. So thank you again. Next, we're going to jump into Kelly Brennig. Kelly, your show.
Thank you, Rick. As Rick said, my name is Kelly Brining, and I am the program manager for various livestock disaster programs, one being the Livestock Indemnity Program, or commonly known as LIP, that I'll talk about briefly today. I understand that you all are, most of you should be familiar with the different disaster programs we have, but just as a brief overview, LIP provides assistance to eligible livestock owners or contract growers for eligible livestock deaths in excess of normal mortality that's been in a direct result with an eligible loss condition, such as hurricane or flooding. LIP also compensates for eligible diseases or attacks by animals introduced into the wild by the federal government, or we also cover loss of livestock that are sold at a reduced price because of an injury or from an eligible loss condition. So I understood that today we really wanted to just talk about what your next step should be with this very terrible disaster that's occurred for you all. I just would highly encourage your next steps, if you haven't already, is obviously to contact your local FSA office. You need your loss as much as possible with possible dated pictures, get your contemporaneous producer records, logs, or whatever you may have together that may show your inventories, your beginning and ending inventories. And we also need to just get your inventories of the number, kind, type, weight of livestock that you had on the day before of this eligible loss condition. We have extended the deadline for you to file a notice of loss or an application for payment to March 3rd of 2025. And just a few key items that I just want to highlight that, you know, if animals were injured because of the hurricane or related weather events that are sold within the 30 days of the disaster event, you could be eligible to be compensated for those if they were sold at a reduced rate. That if the LIP price is higher than what you stock for. Late filed applications, again, we're definitely wanting to provide you all the flexibilities to submit those notice of losses. Just try to get into your county office and get those on record. Again, I know contract growing is prevalent in some of these areas, so contract growers are eligible if their income is dependent on the contracted livestock. And again, we're issuing guidance to our county committees to exercise the maximum flexibilities as we can to help you all, because I can understand that, you know, loss documentation and everything could be very problematic with the conditions that you all are enduring. So that's about all I have for the LIP program, and I'll turn it back over to you, Rick.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. One of the things, guys, before we get into Q&A, I want to mention to you all that it all starts with registering in your local FSA program side of the house with a farm serial number. It's not tedious. It's a very easy process. You take your deed, your proof of ownership, or your lease agreement down there, and you sign up. It doesn't cost you anything, but that gets you in the system, folks. So when you do need to apply for USDA programs, that makes you eligible to apply. Doesn't mean that you're going to receive, but it makes you eligible to apply. So looking in the Q&A that's out there, one of the things, you have to be enrolled for crop insurance to be eligible for the USDA programs. Chris, go ahead. If you'd like to answer that question out, so in case other people have thoughts on it.
Sure. I was trying to answer it in the chat, and looks like I maybe closed it out by accident. But for the FSA side of the programs, you do not have to be participating in crop insurance to be a participant in really any of the programs. For NAP, the one specific specification for NAP is that you cannot participate in crop insurance in NAP. Now, we do have, of course, there are some exceptions, but by and large, NAP exists for crops that are not covered by insurance. TAP does not have any requirements for crop coverage. And, I know Seth's not on right now, but ELAP doesn't have those requirements either. And, LFP doesn't as well. So there are no requirements for any of the farm programs to have a crop insurance policy through a multi-peril.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that question for us. Guys, we're going to go ahead. I don't see any of the questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We're going to go ahead and jump into something that's going to be very, very valuable, especially to beginning farmers and ranchers because of their vulnerabilities. Starting off, they don't have a big war chest tucked away. So I'm going to turn it over now to the program of FSA loans and Thomas Nee. Thomas, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you, Rick. I'm gonna share my screen. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is officially Thomas Nee. I do go by TJ. I'm a senior loan officer with the farm loan programs at the national office, specifically with the loan servicing and property management division. And so today I'm going to go over and highlight the various recovery tools we have for direct loan borrowers. All right, so just to kind of go over a quick agenda, going to cover tools that you have to provide if your situation requires a short-term financial relief, then also tools required for situations where you require more long-term financial relief, and then a few other resources that we have. So let's just say, in the unfortunate event of these hurricanes and storms that you've suffered losses to your crops or maybe livestock. So you've lost a form of income, and so you're going to have a cash shortage. And so you're not able to make your next upcoming annual payment, let's say maybe in December, or maybe it just was due in September, so you're not going to be able to make that payment you're past due. But let's say that you expect to recover these are the damages, you're going to be able to recover and resume full annual payment, continue on with your full annual payment in the following year. In that sort of case, we consider that a type of situation where you have short-term temporary distress. And so for these kind of situations, one of our main tools is the Disaster Set-Aside Program, or DSA. With this tool, you can essentially set aside or push back up to one full annual installment on each of your direct loans, and basically push it back to the end of the loan. So it's going to be due at maturity, at loan maturity at the end of your term. Pretty much basically just provides immediate relief so that you don't have to stress or worry about having to try to make that payment. But it does accrue interest over as normal, as that does normally accrue interest. It's going to be set aside all at the back, and so it's going to continue to accrue interest. There is no prepayment penalty though. So you could, if situation improves and you have extra cash, you can pay off that set aside amount at any time. As far as the main requirements or eligibility requirements, the need for the DSA must have been caused directly by a declared disaster. So that declared by a president, Secretary of Agriculture, or the FSC administrator. But important to note that the need does not have to be farm income specific or related. It could be non-farm income source that you lost. Let's just say you rely on a non-farm income from a spouse and to cover, your living expenses, or maybe you're in the very, very beginning stages of farming, and so farm income's not quite there yet to cover all expenses for the farm. And so you still rely on non-farm income from your spouse to help cover that and cover living expenses. But let's say your spouse's place of work or maybe the business is temporarily shut down because of damages. In that case, you've lost that form of income, and so that need is also meets this requirement. It doesn't have to be farm specific. You must have been a direct loan borrower at the time of the disaster, must have operated a farm at the time of the disaster within either a county designated disaster area or a contiguous county, which basically means county adjacent that shares the same border as one that has been designated a disaster area. And you must also develop a projection for the next year that demonstrates that we'll have sufficient cash flow to cover all expenses and debt payments, both farm and personal. Again, really just what we're after here is trying to show that you can actually resume full payments in that following year. But if you're not able to demonstrate that, then that just tells us that, okay, we have to look at more long-term type of financial relief. And the loan that you're going to be receiving a DSA, it must have a remaining term of at least 2 years in order to receive it. Other requirements apply, but these are the main ones I wanted to highlight given the limited time we have. As far as the application process, the agency actually automatically notifies all borrowers with eligible loans of the DSA's availability. After the first disaster of the calendar year, you'll receive a letter in the mail. It's also submit a request in writing for the DSA within 8 months of the date of the natural disaster designated. And by submitting a request in writing, it could be anything simple as just a handwritten letter with a sentence or two that I would like to request a DSA. That's essentially your main piece of the application. The only detail that I should point out is that all of the borrowers on the original promissory note must sign that handwritten letter. You must provide your records for the production cycle in which the disaster occurred. Must also provide any other documentation to support, again, that projected cash flow for that next year. Items may be required, but these are the main items to complete your application. Beyond the disaster set aside, we also have a new tool that we just released on September 25th of this year, which was the Distressed Borrower Set Aside, or DBSA. And so it basically provides the same function as a DSA, pushes that payment, sets it aside to the back of the loan. But with this program, the interest will only actually accrue at a rate of 0.125% on that set aside amount. So instead of your existing interest rate with the DSA. So that's a big advantage with this program. And it also doesn't require a declared disaster. So in a lot of cases, you probably best to try to go for the DBSA to see if you can, instead of the DSA, because it provides that interest savings. But the only catch or the unique requirement is that the loan must have been outstanding as of September 25th, 2024. So any other new loans aren't eligible for the DBSA. Eligibility requirements, very similar, just excluding the disaster-related requirements of DSA. So very similar to DSA, same with the application process, except that we'll not notify borrowers of the availability of DBSA because it's continuously available, doesn't require disaster. Everything else is pretty much the same. And so now moving on to long-term financial relief. So let's say you've experienced losses, could be either crop related, farm income related, or non-farm income related. And you can't make your upcoming annual payment, or maybe you're past due on a September payment. But on top of that, you know already that based on the severity of the situation, you're not going to be able to make even your next year's payment or even the following. So in those kind of cases where recovery is going to take a lot longer for you to get back up and running at full power, we consider this where you definitely need a more long-term type of solution. So in these kind of cases, our main tool there is that of a potential loan restructure. And loan restructure, with those, we will basically permanently restructure the terms of your loans. And to provide an example, let's say, again, that your you're past due on a payment from September, or maybe you can see that you're not going to be able to obviously make your next your December payment that's coming right around the corner. With a loan restructure, we'll basically hit the reset button or the restart button on it. We'll give you a clean, fresh start. That payment, if you're in a situation where you had a past due payment from September, that payment's no longer due. If you had a payment that's coming up in December, that's no longer due. Once we close the restructure, you'll now be given a full year until your next annual payment's due. So it provides that immediate relief right there. But on top of that, we're gonna try as best we can to extend the term of your loan, provide you more years to hopefully typically it works out where we can get you to lower the monthly payment or the annual payments to a more manageable amount. And with it's basically, you can kind of look at it as our form of a refinance with a lot more benefits. As you can see from the third bullet, the interest rate that we're going to provide on the restructured loan is also going to be the lower of the current rate offered or your existing interest rate. So your rate will never get worse. It'll either stay the same or potentially get even better and lower. The extent to which we can extend the terms out is dependent on the type of loan. Operating loans, we can extend those out up to 15 years from the time you close the restructure. With direct farm ownership loans, they're a little bit different. We can only go out to 40 years from loan origination date. So that's a key to remember, the loan origination date. So if you took out a farm ownership loan and you originally took a 40-year term, the max term, then we really don't have much room to try to extend to lower your payment. But if you had a 30-year term on your direct farm ownership loan, then you have 10 years to potentially extend out and hopefully lower those to more manageable. As part of the restructure process, we also could potentially offer deferrals. So the ability to basically defer need to make all or either a portion of your payments up within the first 5 years of that new restructured term. And that we'll choose the smallest amount in the shortest time period for the deferral, whatever is needed to make your cash flow work so that we can get you fully up and overall. Loan restructure is all about trying to provide you with a one-time fix to provide you with the best chance to be successful and get back fully up and running over the long term. Main eligibility requirements for restructures, the distress or need for it must be due to circumstances beyond your control. The losses from hurricane definitely fall under that. We allow for natural disasters, adverse weather, like storms, flooding. Other circumstances are allowed also, including, say you had unfortunate medical issues, so it takes you off the farm, no longer can work the farm. And then also on top of that, maybe you racked up more medical bills or significant medical bills. That's another reason. Or even if your crops were covered with disease and so you have to recover from that. Those are all circumstances that could be allowed. And there's others as well. Application process. There's no I guess I should say it is continuously available. It's not specific to disaster. We always have it available. If you're in distress, you're not yet delinquent, best thing, contact your local office. If you think you're not going to be able to make it, and this will be one of the main things that they'll look at as a tool. When you do become 90-day delinquent, we also automatically notify you in writing of all your servicing options, including loan restructures. As far as the complete application, it's basically the same as a new loan making request. Regarding other resources, we realize that especially during this time, loans might not be at the forefront of your mind, especially because you're probably, we're still recovering, still trying to assess like all the damages or how to just move forward and what the path you're going to take. But just wanted to make sure to let you know that we do still have loans available if the need arises. We do have direct emergency loans that are specifically designed to help you recover from disasters. You can use it if you suffered losses to your physical losses to things like equipment. We can repair, replace it through these loans. Production losses, if you lost crops, we can use this loan to cover expenses. Maximum amount of 500,000 is the limit. Terms 1 to 20 years, depending on the uses, and collateral provided. There are also very specific circumstances where we don't require collateral if maybe the disaster took out all of your potential collateral. And then the interest rate is 3.75%. The rates that we offer can change monthly. And that's the rate for this month. But once your loan is approved to close, you get the lower of either rate, and that'll be fixed for the life of your loan. And then you must apply for the emergency loans no later than 8 months after the disaster. We also do have operating loans, direct operating loans. You're probably all familiar with those. Can basically use it for anything that's essential to the farm operation. Maximum amount of 400,000, term 1 to 7 years, depending on the use and the collateral provided. Interest rates a little bit higher than the emergency loan right now at 4.875%. We also have guaranteed operating loans, allow for higher amounts, but you apply with a guaranteed lender. And they kind of dictate the rates and the terms, although we do have limits and rules on how high those can be. And then lastly, your main resource really is the local FSA County office, as others have mentioned. They're available by phone, email, and in person. And for whatever is most convenient for you, and more than happy to, it should be your next step from here. They've been more than happy to meet with you over the phone or in person, to go with you one-on-one and discuss the details of your situation to see what best available options we have. Unfortunately, I don't think we have time for questions because I'm sure I maxed out the time. But if you do have questions in the chat, I'll definitely be sure to get back to those. But again, your local office is your #1 resource, and you have my contact information there as well. Feel free to email me. There's a little bit of a time difference, as you can tell by my phone area code there. I'm very fortunate to be working remotely out of Hawaii, but being out of Hawaii, I do definitely have my share of experiences with hurricanes. So prayers and definitely my heart goes out to all of you. And so thank you for your time. Send it back to Rick.
Comments, TJ, I sure appreciate you guys. The one takeaway I want you guys to make sure you focus on is keep in contact with your county offices. These are your loan officers that's handling your portfolios, handling your loan packet. They cannot read a crystal ball. Be in contact with them. And then when you go and meet with them, be prepared. Bring in the documents that you need. Bring in the evidence. Bring in the proof. You know, don't be hesitant to talk to them that you're in a bind, you're in a pickle or something. Guys, FSA does not want to foreclose on anybody, man. That's the last thing we want. And that's why we have built in all of these safety factors all along the way, so that we can help you get back on your feet and start to thrive and be productive producers for us and help us feed America. So TJ, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and move into NRCS, talking about the EQIP program, extremely important program. And I'm going to turn it on over to Jerry at this time.
So I am traveling, guys, so I will keep my camera off. Thank you, Rick. I am Jerry Rayner, the Financial Assistance Division Director. I'm here to talk with you today about EQIP and some of the disaster. Well, EQIP is, I have to say, EQIP is not a disaster program. So NRCS does not have a disaster program. What we are able to do is help mitigate some of the results of these storms and disasters that are happening across the country. So with that, Rick and others have touched on it. Make sure you are visiting your local service center, making those phone calls. First thing you need to do is make sure you have an application. That application allows us to mark that application as a result of the disaster. Really, why we have that application in hand now, we can start making those visits, scheduling the visits to do the farm assessments to help you determine what resource concerns that the programs are able to assist with. So there's not a list of particular practices. It's all going to be independent based on your farm and what has happened to your landscape due to the disaster. So first, making sure you get an application in. I would treat that application just as I would any other insurance claim. Make sure that when you're filling out the share with the local conservationists who will be doing that assessment with you to just let us know. Here are the issues across the landscape. That allows us to be able to help you develop that conservation plan. Here are the practices that we're able to assist with. This is how as a producer, I know a lot of these things seem there are emergencies to you. You need immediate assistance. And if we're able to get to the landscape to help you with that immediate assistance, then our programs, you still have to go through the same application process. The next step, and this is no different from any other time you're applying for EQIP, what we're able to offer is that once you fill out the application, we can issue an early start waiver, especially for those practices that may not require engineering assistance. And then you can go ahead and begin work. Now, for those practices that would require engineering assistance, anything you install has to meet NRCS standards and specifications. So we wouldn't want you to go out and install something that does not meet that standard or specification, and then we're unable to complete the contract. So once that application is in hand, we can issue an early start waiver. You still have to make sure that all of the eligibility requirements are met before we get to the contract period. So although you have an application in and the early start waiver, it does not guarantee you a contract until all the eligibility requirements are in place. But if you participated before, you will understand what those eligibility requirements are. The staff as well can offer a level of surety that we would look forward to we would be able to move forward with the process. But just have to make that clear. Just because that application's in, the early start waiver has been issued, there's still no guarantee of a contract. So some of the things that I know, being from North Carolina and seeing some of the devastation that's happened in Western North Carolina, sitting on a few other webinars with some of our partners, questions are being asked in reference to animal mortality. We provide assistance along the lines of animal mortality, debris removal, whether it's on the landscape or in a waterway. There are options of our conservation practices. Some of those practices, as far as the states are concerned, they may have specific requirements. There may be specific state requirements. That's why we encourage you to make sure you're visiting with the state and having those conversations. Again, I'm at the national level, so I would not have all the details relevant to the state. What I am sharing with you is that the opportunities to help correct some of the issues that were caused by the storm on your landscape, NRCS has the opportunity to do that through EQIP. So even with your processing of applications, getting application in, because we accept applications all the time, once you submit your application, I would definitely make sure there was a note or notation on your application that this happened during a disaster, whether it was Helene, whether it was Milton, or any other disaster that may happen. Make sure that's notated on your application, because there may be things on your farm that it may take some time. It may not be in the next 90 days. It may be in the next 12 months. It may be the next 24 months. Our applications are 5-year applications. Essentially, we can do applications up to a 10-year period. We try to keep applications to 5 years because that's the length of the farm bill. But we want to do the full assessment, and there are things you will have the opportunity to work on those things. And as far as the funding, we receive EQIP funding annually through an appropriation. States have the ability to make those funds available, whether it's through a special funding pool, whether it's out of their general allocation. So there's not a pot of emergency funding. We take our existing EQIP program and we make those disaster areas a priority. The application period, as I said, we take applications year round, but anytime you're in a disaster, you want to make sure you get your application in because there are things that you may be looking at doing immediately. So that's why we have to have that application. I can guarantee you without an application, you do not qualify for payment. So you want to make sure that you have an application in for us to do the assessment to determine whether the payment can be applicable to the work that you're doing. But as long as you're visiting with the local service center and the district conservationists or soil conservationists that are serving those particular counties, they can help you work through those and help you determine what's eligible, what's not eligible, whether there's some of the practices that may follow under our emergency conservation program, which is a program under the Farm Services Agency, or whether you may be in an emergency watershed protection area that we have other funds that may apply to. But these are the things when it comes to the remediation effort after the disasters happen. What can I do on my landscape to correct these erosion issues? I know most of us have seen the news feeds and how we've now got gullies cut through fields. Parts of fields have washed away because we were farming there at the river's edge. How do we restore that? There are opportunities through some of these programs to help with that, whether it's FSA or NRCS or any of the other federal agencies that may be working through the assistance that's being provided in the local areas. Always make sure that you're visiting with the local staff there. So that would be my recommendation on the next steps. For new and beginning farmers, farmers and ranchers, you do qualify for the 90%, and that's under the EQIP program. And then any those designations, you can request the advance payment. So if there are practices that you're looking to install within the next 30, 60 days, once your application's in, the early start waivers being granted, make sure, look at the new application. The new application does have a box there for you to check if you're interested in an advance payment. That advance payment is 50% of basically the contract amount. Well, Jerry, we haven't got to the contract amount yet. Once we get to that point of developing a contract, then once that contract's in place, that 50% payment can be issued. So again, all of this does not seem like it's an emergency funds in hand for me to begin work right now. But these are the avenues that are offered through the EQIP program within NRCS. I'm going to stop there, and I look forward to any detailed questions that the audience may have. Thanks, Roy.
Jerry, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I'm looking here in the chat, and there was just one question on EQIP, but I think that it's going to be kind of self-explanatory once they get into the website. And Kara was nice enough to post the EQIP website. We appreciate you taking the time from your busy day, Jerry. It's most important, and we're grateful for it. One thing I want to let you guys know about EQIP, though. EQIP or NRCS are the experts, the soil experts. Guys, these are the guys that are going to come in and let you know, how much damage to that soil did you actually experience. They're going to be able to let you know what you can do to develop a plan to rebuild, to get that farm up and operating again, as far as that soil, as far as that land and whatnot. These guys know their business. So don't be afraid to get comfy with the NRCS, because they are going to do whatever they can to help you. The biggest thing, again, I'm going to reference is that you guys need to get down to that FSA office and get a serial number, to get a farm number, so that NRCS can go out there and start helping you through programs like EQIP. They offer several other programs that Jerry didn't have time to mention today, but this is your opportunity, guys, to take advantage of the programs that are out there for you. But it's going to take your initiative to get into those local offices. And NRCS and FSA are pretty much almost in every county, or they're going to be real close into the county next to you. Jerry, again, at this time, I'd like to thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and move on, move right along with risk management. We have Michael Green. Guys, you insure your houses, you insure your cars. He's going to talk to you about insuring what pays for your house, what pays for your cars and whatnot, and that's your crops. How do you have insurance for your crops? So, Jerry, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, sir. Michael, excuse me, Michael, my apologies. Michael.
No worries, Rick. Thank you so much. Again, yeah, my name is Michael Green, and I work for the USDA Risk Management Agency. We do crop insurance. And so federal crop insurance is a public-private partnership. Private companies, crop insurance agent, you'll work with them. And if you already have crop insurance, you have an agent, and that's who you work with your policies. I'm just going to kind of cut to the chase here a little bit. So I'm going to make the assumption that, just to start out with, that you've been impacted by a disaster recently, and you're wondering, okay, I want to make sure that I'm covering my bases. What are my next steps? And really, just to be super simple about it, your next step is contact your crop insurance agent. They are your go-to person to figure out what reporting, what records you might need to report, when they can get a loss adjuster into your property to look at the damages. One of the things I'm going to point out just briefly is that there have been some flexibilities offered by USDA. In response to some of the hurricanes recently, USDA has instructed crop insurance companies to expedite some of the loss adjustments. So that's not necessarily every disaster across the country right now, but in the Southeast, there is that flexibility out there. While that is nice, what I would also encourage you to do is talk to your crop insurance agent. Fundamentally, that's going to give you a game plan for what you need to do with your specific policy on your specific land, so that you ensure that you're paid. Crop insurance requires that when you first notice a loss, you report it and you put in a notice of loss, and your crop insurance agent will do that. So get on the phone if you haven't already. Have a conversation with your crop insurance agent. One question we had in the chat that I want to address really quick was that there was a question on whether you can harvest and clean up maybe the damage from the crops prior to getting paid out with your indemnity. Talk to your crop insurance agent. You probably need to leave the crop unharvested if there's any need for a loss adjustment. So if a loss adjuster needs to come to your property and estimate your losses, if it's not an 100% loss, especially, they're going to need to be able to see the actual crop and make those measurements and determine how much you're going to get paid. So don't make any changes to the crops in your fields. Super important things that aren't always necessary, but you should do just to keep yourself protected, is just document those damages and losses. Have your farm records. You're going to need to submit those for your loss claim. Maybe you have a herd inventory, receipts. And then, like, finally, the kind of a big one is maybe pictures of those damages and losses. If those have timestamps or GPS coordinates on top of it, that's even better. That's more information that if you ever need it, you have it. It might just take a little bit extra time to keep all that organized, but if you can, be as organized with all that information as possible. And then, like, to connect it with what everybody else said is, your crop insurance agent connects you to your crop insurance policy. For all the other disaster relief and assistance programs that you can get from USDA, you pretty much have to go into a USDA service center and have a conversation and come up with a game plan on what resources are going to work for your operation. So definitely connect with those. If your local service center is still closed, there is an FSA hotline that you can connect with that I'll try to put in the chat here. Okay, so those that was basically the information for everyone that has crop insurance. If you do not have crop insurance and you're interested, maybe you had a disaster and you're like, ooh, I need crop insurance. Again, talk to a crop insurance agent. On the USDA Risk Management Agency's website, we do have an agent locator tool using that link that you can connect. You can figure out using your zip code what insurance agents are near you, and you can start there as you're looking for a crop insurance agent. Just so you know, the price for crop insurance is the same no matter which crop insurance agent you use. So just choose someone that you trust and that you have a rapport with, and you think that you are happy to work with them. Here's a little picture of actually our old website, but it's very similar. You'll go to, there's a tools, and you'll go to the agent locator tool. It's pretty self-explanatory. What will you need to participate? Records. I know we love to say records, but you'll need records to participate in crop insurance. That specific type of record is going to depend on the crop you're growing and the type of policy you're going to purchase. So talk to a crop insurance agent and they'll help you guide you down the path to exactly what you need for your specific needs. Tips, like I said, crop insurance agents, you should pick one that you like. Prices are same no matter who you work with, so trust and respect are really important. Speak to your crop insurance agent early and often. It takes time to get all those records together and documentation, and the more time you have to put all that together makes it easier on yourself. And then be prepared. Have records for your farm, and go to the USDA service centers frequently to report your acreage. Some important resources I'd like to point you to, especially if you're new to crop insurance. We have a policyholder bill of rights on our website that talks about exactly what type of service you are afforded to in the law. And then we also have a beginner's guide to crop insurance to help people new to crop insurance know just the basics of what they should know to get started. And we also have some information on our website about our relatively new Hurricane Insurance Protection Wind Index. This is additional coverage for any of your policies if you live within eligible states where hurricanes are likely to occur. If you have experienced hurricanes and you want to make sure that you have that additional coverage in the future, talk to your crop insurance agent to figure out if this is a product that would work well for your operation. And that's all I have for you today. Again, talk to your crop insurance agent, work on those claims, and hopefully you'll get a payment soon so that you can begin moving forward with your operation this year.
Michael, I appreciate the information you put out. Folks, it's so important that you work with your USDA service center, the FSA office, and get down there, and they will inform you. They'll help you navigate it and whatnot, because insurance is invaluable, especially when you experience a disaster. That's when you're going to want. And when we talk about disaster, we're not just talking about hurricanes. We're not just talking about droughts. We're talking about wildfires. We're talking about extreme winds. We're talking about lightning strikes with livestock. There's so many different things that the FSA office, in conjunction with the risk management office, is going to be able to help you. All of these programs are designed to help you, and especially if you're a beginning farmer and rancher, again, because you probably are the most vulnerable, because it's just proven that it is. So thank you again. I really appreciate you, Michael. Next, we're going to go to rural development. And I'm so glad that they brought rural development into this, because rural development offers so many programs that can help if all of a sudden you lost your windows in that hurricane, your windows got blown out or whatnot. They offer different programs if you live in rural America. And they're going to talk to you a little bit about that. If you qualify, and if you could, rural development offers some great programs that may not be agriculture directly related, but you got to live somewhere. and they're going to come in and help you with different programs. They're going to talk to you a little bit about it. So at this time, I want to turn it on to Joe Woody.
Hey, good afternoon, Rick, and thank you for the introduction. We're just going to briefly cover one of our programs. USDA Rural Development has over 50 loan and grant programs, so we're not going to have time to cover all those, but we want to focus really on how we operate in a disaster and the program that we get a lot of questions about. Next slide, please. Of course, we're not production agriculture like everybody thinks when we mention USDA. So we're going to have more of the programming for infrastructure, housing, businesses, and community facilities. So if you're involved in your community and you had a public facility destroyed, more than likely we might be part of the capital stack financing to rebuild or repair that hospital or that jail or that community center during your disaster. Next. And we're going to show you some best practices and some of the initiatives we've done across the nation so far. Next. You can see that recovery operations with FEMA are broken down into 6 categories: community planning and capacity building, economic recovery, health and social services, housing, infrastructure, and natural and cultural resources. Let's take housing, for example. If you go down that column with housing, you're going to see the coordinating and primary agency is HUD, but you're going to see rural development or USDA listed as a primary partner on that. And you'll notice in all those categories, USDA is listed. That's because between the 29 agencies and offices within USDA, there are loans, grants, or technical assistance available to assist in recovery operations in all 6 of these recovery support functions. Next. Okay, we're going to show you a little bit. Since 2022, there have been 192 declared disasters across the nation. Rural development alone in the impacted and declared counties has over 535,000 borrowers in those declared counties. And we've got over 113 billion portfolio out there in those declared counties in these 3 different sectors. Next slide. So let's focus on the thing that comes up front when there is a disaster. A lot of people need repairs to their homes. Again, people don't think of USDA in the housing sector, but we do have a home repair loan and grant program when there is a presidential disaster declaration. Okay, we have a steady state program and then one under the declared disasters. And it's basically to help very low income homeowners make repairs to their homes. Now, to get a grant, you have to be 62 years of age. You can get a maximum of $15,000 for grant if it's associated with a disaster, or $10,000 under steady state activities, and it's to correct health and safety repairs. Now, previous to the end of the fiscal year, at one point last year, our grants had a maximum of over $42,000. So think about this. If you have somebody, a family member, or somebody in your community that needs help repairing their home, if they own it and live there, they may qualify if they're in an eligible rural area. So we're waiting to see what happens with any kind of disaster funding when Congress gets back in session, and we hope to raise that grant amount in the future. But again, 62 years of age, very low income, you may qualify for a grant to do home repairs. Now, if the grant is not enough, we also have loans that can go up to a maximum of $40,000 for 20 years at 1%. So that is basically $5 per $1,000 you borrow to help with repairs. You do not have to be 62 years of age to get a loan. All you have to do is be 18 years of age and be very low income. So if you're over 62, you might be able to get a combination loan and grant. And if you're under 62, you might be able to get a loan. We see a lot of people helping out their parents or grandparents with this program simply because They know they might not be able to afford the debt service on the property, but they can help out because we're talking nominal amounts of monies to get a lot of repairs done. Okay, next slide. Some of the things we cannot do, of course, we cannot construct a new home. We can do a complete rehab. With a presidential disaster declaration, we can move a mobile home to another site. We can make off-site improvements such as doing utility hookups, etc. And if you had to go out and get an emergency type loan to do repairs on your house, we might be able to refinance that prior debt that you assume to get repairs done real quickly. Okay. Next slide. Just going to give you some examples real quickly. I know we're near the end of our time. So we're looking at doing things that might be able to help with access for people with disabilities. We can look at roofing, flooring, wiring, windows, septic tanks, etc. Do we look at your heating and air system, insulation, to do repairs after an event? There you can see an example of a house where we went in and redid the subfloor and the flooring. Next slide. Handicap accessibility, we can put a ramp into the house, or a lot of times we'll do renovations inside the house. Do we make a bathroom handicap accessible? Do we make the kitchen area handicap accessible, etc.? Next slide. And then here's an example of where we redid the ceiling in a house that had some water damage from a rain event. And people might ask, well, why didn't you do the entire room, the walls, etc.? Like I said, we cannot come in and do a complete rehab, but we can remove all of the safety hazards, health and safety hazards in a dwelling. And that's an example of what we did here. Next slide. And if you grew up in a rural area, we have all seen electrical boxes like this. So if there is a health or safety hazard, we can come in and redo the wiring and look at making the dwelling safe and bringing it up to code. It's a good example. And believe it or not, there's still a lot of people without running water in places, indoor plumbing, or bathrooms. So that is something we also do. And we look at doing wells and stuff if they do not have access to potable water. Okay, next slide. Of course, we look at the declaration if we try to get an increased grant amount. And here's just an example of Illinois. You can see some of the declared counties recently last year of their wind event. But keep in mind, we can only go in rural areas. So if you can see the declared counties, the next slide will show a map of where we might not be able to go into because of population. So next slide. So again, we have to stay in rural areas. So of course, we're not going to be able to go into Chicago or places like that. And you can see the highlighted areas where we can't go into. And this is just one example, but in every state we have eligible and ineligible areas. So we try to help all the people in ineligible areas. So again, if you have somebody in your community that you think needs help and might qualify as very low income, please reach out to the local USDA Rural Development Office. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation today. And just so people get an idea of alternative projects USDA might be involved in, if you've ever been to Tennessee at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, you'll see the Titanic Museum. And that was a USDA rural development project under our business program. So just think of us as production agriculture. We're doing a whole lot more in your community to assist. Thank you for your time and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it. Guys, he brings in a whole different angle on it. And I think that is extremely important because we forget it's not all, USDA is not just all agriculture related. It's also, we cover rural America. Janet, I appreciate you bringing them in so much. Before I get into my next presenter, I just want to briefly answer a question here. Guys, I handle veteran issues all across the country, military veteran issues. I handle questions with veterans. I work closely with military veterans. So my response to this question is going to be kind of military related. So I don't want anybody getting offended. Okay. It's just coming from an old salty veteran, Rick Lopez. And I got a question here is how much paperwork is required for direct emergency loans as compared to doing regular direct loans? My answer to that is it's the government, dude. There's gonna be a lot of paperwork. You know that. Don't be afraid. When I was a loan officer and I say I'm gonna mail you out an application, I used to tell them, don't throw it away. You know what? Keep that, call me up. We'll go down there to your house and we'll help you fill that application out. It all gets back to one thing that we've been stressing here today is developing a relationship with your USDA service centers, which will have FSA and NRCS usually all co-located together. Many times rural development will be in that same office. But don't be afraid to go into the locators, look around, Google it, find out where that office is, go down there and introduce yourself. Guys, next I want to introduce Kara McNabb. She's part of the Beginning Farmer and Rancher team. It's such a pleasure to have her. We're very honored and gifted to have such a valuable person. And she's going to talk a little bit about how to navigate through this recovery process. So Kara, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, so what we've got on the screen here is a list of resources, and I'm going to go into each one in a little bit more depth. But just so you know, all the resources that are listed here are also in the chat. The links are in the chat. So a few of our presenters today, or maybe all of them actually, mentioned contacting your local office. So this slide is a picture of what you'll see when you go to that link. So basically, to contact a USDA service center, you just select your state and county, hit go, and then it will bring up the contact information for your local service center. Another resource is the State Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coordinators. We have a BFR coordinator in each state, and they can assist you with finding resources available in your state. USDA resources, they're usually quite familiar with extension resources, other resources that your state may have. So for that one, again, you just select your state and it'll take you right to your state, and it'll include the email and then their phone number and their name. So this is our hurricane webpage. It's on farmers.gov, and this webpage is going to have your most updated information. So the USDA may work with organizations such as nonprofits or universities. We call them cooperators. So the organizations, they can help producers with a variety of things, including providing outreach, technical assistance, or help working with USDA offices. So right now we're working on finalizing some cooperators to assist with hurricane assistance. Once those are in place, we will be updating this page here, the hurricane page. And so you please keep going back to this page, and that's how you can find out how to reach some of those local cooperators. So as we all know, dealing with a disaster can be very stressful. The Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network consists of 4 regional centers that offer free or affordable resources for producers navigating stress, mental health, and legal issues. As you can see here, every center offers a combination of farm telephone helplines, direct assistance navigating farm business stressors, training programs and workshops, support groups, or outreach services and activities. So this is a list of the regional centers along with their contact information. So each one has their hotline, times available, website, and many also offer Spanish language services. So those are the resources that I had for you today, and I will send it over to Rick. Thank you.
Kara, thank you so much. That information is so important. Guys, go in there and look and find these resources because these resources are for you. Today, we talked about disaster relief. What can we do? There's a great partnership with farm loan programs, and what NAP insurance doesn't cover risk management and the commercial side of the house. We'll jump into. There was a question out there about micro farms. I call it micro farms because the example they used was 0.01 acres and several different crops. Best way to get those answers and see what crops maybe are they under roof? Are they in a greenhouse? Are they out in the open? Because that's all going to affect your insurance level on it. Not for disaster, but it is going to be on your everyday. Now, the biggest thing is if you go down there and they say, okay, you don't have a serial number, a farm number, make sure you get it at that time because we don't want to repeat. If they say you're not eligible because you didn't have a farm number, you're not registered, we don't have any information on you for this disaster. I don't know. Okay, I'm not the experts in that area. These people that came to you today are. But the people that are the experts also are the people in the counties. Those county offices, whether NRCS, FSA, rural development, risk management, these people are the ones that work with the programs that you're inquiring about every single day. They know the rules, they know the regulations. But if there's something out there that you didn't qualify because you weren't in the system yet, don't make the mistake because chances are there may be another disaster coming up in the head, and you want to make sure that you're prepared, you're well prepared for it, and you're able to get disaster relief equitably and very quickly. So I want to thank. We're going to be able to knock off a little early today on the questions. If there's any questions specifically, there are questions about different programs. If you're on the farm program team, if you guys want to jump into some of these questions and answer them, some of them are just on the acronyms. What do they mean? And then there's a question out there on if there's going to be other programs that are going to be eligible for this. Guys, we could not present to you an inclusive presentation on these programs because time would not allow us to do that. Okay, this webinar would have actually been probably maybe a 2.5 day webinar if we actually got into the meat and potatoes. But what Janet and the BFR team, which I'm very honored to be a part of, what Janet did was put together a snapshot of all these programs that may be able to help you get relief. Now we're asking you guys to take the next step forward and go down there into these county offices and see what type of equitable relief you guys may be able to get. Especially, folks, if you guys have a loan, that's invaluable to make sure that your county office is aware of these loans and your payment may be late. You may need to restructure. There's a lot of different opportunities out there for you, but that loan officer can't initiate it unless you walk in that office and talk to him and let him know what's going on. You can go down there to the NRCS office and you're going to be put in line with people that are the experts on what's going on with your property and what happened to it then. And then if you're going to sleep at night and you're looking up, laying there in bed, and all of a sudden you're saying, oh, what a beautiful night, look at the stars. Chances are your roof got blown off or it got damaged or whatnot. And you may go to rural development and see if you can't get any type of financial relief or financial help there. You have risk management that can come in and offer crop insurance for future and the crop insurance includes pestilence. It includes drought, so many wildfires. The best thing is be prepared. We want to help you guys be prepared. But the one takeaway I want to leave with you guys is to get into your county offices, get that farm number, and be acquainted with who these folks are and the programs that they offer. They got great pamphlets, great literature that show all the different programs, and there may be something out there that's going to help you benefit down the road to increase, to grow your operation. You may start off with that 1/10 or 1/100th of an acre on your farming. It may be 3 rows of carrots that you're selling down at the local market. But you know what? If your dreams are to grow and expand, let us help you. Let us work together. Kara mentioned something that is critical, and that is the beginning farmer rancher website. Every state has a beginning farmer and rancher state coordinator. These people we train and we work closely. They're great bunch of folks, and they are designed to have all kinds of different contacts, all kinds of different partners that they can send you to. And we didn't even touch base because, like I say, we can go on forever on the possibilities of the USDA. But that beginning farmer and rancher state coordinator can really start unlocking doors for you to help you grow and help you expand. And also, they are designed who to contact in risk management, who to contact in farm loan programs, who to contact for your county loan officer, who to contact, where's your closest NRCS office or rural development office. These people are trained. They're great. I get the privilege of working with them every day. They will come out and they will give you the information that you need. All we ask is you guys get proactive at that time, follow up on that information, get down there to those county offices and begin to thrive, beginning to get back on your feet with these with your operation and whatnot, because the only thing we at the USDA want is to see you grow and thrive. And we know the vulnerabilities of a beginning farmer and rancher, and we offer programs to help you. We're here to serve, we're here to serve you. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and thank you guys for attending this meeting. There will be a recording that'll be sent out or could be requested in a couple of weeks. It's got to go through the proper channels. Get on these websites. Look to see what's there for you guys. Be proactive, be aggressive, go down there, make those appointments, and then be prepared. Thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate all of you guys and all of what you're doing to help feed America. You guys have a great day. Janet, it's all yours.